Yeah, so this might seem a little out of nowhere. Basically, this video you're about to watch is part of a scrapped Origami King review that I worked on. Currently, I'm working on another video, and it's coming along nicely, but it still needs some more time in the oven, and I really wanted to get another video out before the end of the year. So then the thought occurred to me about just uploading this unfinished video here. A quick history, I started working on this after my Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 review. You can even see me tease it at the end of the video. I got a lot done on it as well, had the whole script written out and started recording audio and editing the video, but after 4 or 5 months of actively working on it, I came to the horrific realization that this video was god-awful. And as much as it pained me, I decided to scrap the whole thing and eventually restart from scratch. Still, it would be unfortunate to let all that hard work go to waste, so I'm uploading what I did manage to get done before scrapping. And not only that, but after the review section, I'll go over why I thought it was bad and decided to get rid of the whole thing. If you don't really care about the actual review and just want to hear my explanation on why this video is shit, then you could just skip to this time here. Without further ado, enjoy. Your torture. When the game begins, we see Mario and Luigi heading to Peach's castle, and the first thing I noticed with this game is the fact that Luigi actually fucking talks. In the past decade, I noticed that Luigi has been speaking less and less. In Sticker Star, he's just mute. In any spin-off that had story, he kind of just pulls a Mario and says random phrases with no dialogue.
Oh yeah.
It started to seem like Nintendo was locking Luigi's personality like they did with Mario, so I'm at least thankful for this game Luigi went and got some speech therapy. Anyway, we arrive to Peach's castle and it's completely abandoned. We slowly drive through Toad Town with this very eerie music kind of playing, and we can't find a single trace of scrap paper. So Mario and Luigi head inside the castle and they get locked in. A small detail that I like is that when you jump, Luigi jumps alongside you and you can see that he just jumps a little bit higher. Fucking show off. Luigi decides that looking for a key would be the perfect side quest to go on, so he heads off. We head to the main hall and see that Princess Peach has been turned into origami and speaking very strangely, asking us questions like, do we want to be folded? Do we think being flat is a disgrace? Should toads be considered like a third of a person? Things like that. Doesn't matter what you answer though, you end up being dropped into the castle's dungeon. It just occurred to me that Peach has a dungeon. Does that mean there's prisoners? Do they torture toads down here? Do they have one of those torture devices? Wouldn't be the first time we've seen them use on a toad. Anyway, the dungeon. This place is where the game's tutorials begin, and will slowly start teaching us new mechanics and design of the game throughout the next few areas until we reach Toad Town. Down here is where we first meet Olivia, our partner for the rest of the game. We have to free her by using the 1,000 folded arms. We have to use motion controls to move the arms around and be able to tear or break certain stuff with it to progress. It seems like something that would make a cool mechanic, but unfortunately it's grossly underutilized. In the overworld, it's only used in very specific spots, and only in really basic ways. It basically boils down to the game having a giant stop sign in specific areas that you have to break down using your arms. No interesting gameplay, like it's two giant stretchy arms. Sonic Unleashed also did this, where Sonic had long stretchy limbs. You can see him swing around in the cutscenes, but in gameplay he just uses it to jerk off some enemies. Why not let me reach things that are like far away or move something? Imagine holding a board and you must maneuver stuff on top of it without dropping it. Anything else aside from, aw shit, there's some paper in the way, time to use my anchor arms. Like, why even include it if this is all you're gonna use it for? After saving Olivia, we find the hammer, which we'll use to break objects like crates and kneecaps. The hammer is very versatile. You're pretty much gonna be using it for almost everything. Breaking stuff, getting confetti, rescuing toads, combat, so on and so forth. After that, we find Bowser and we free him and make it to the roof, where we encounter the main baddie of the game, King Ollie. He's the brother of Olivia and has a burning hatred for paper and wants to turn the world into origami because he read Flat Stanley once and it gave him nightmares. He reveals an origami Goomba and we get our first taste of the game's combat, but I'm actually going to save talking about the combat for later since this game really likes to spoon feed us this info over the course of the beginning area, so it'll probably be easier to discuss once everything's all nicely laid out. After we defeat the Goomba, Ollie lifts up Peach's castle with these ribbon things, streamers, whatever you call them, and we fall off and get saved by a Shy Guy, see that Luigi has died, and we join him shortly after. We end up in the forest area where we get our confetti bag. This thing's sole purpose is just to fill holes that are scattered around the world. When you fill it, you get coins and sometimes a way forward. And really not much else. It's more just here to give you something to work towards as you make your way through the areas. You see on your map, you can see a completion rate of 4 different things. Bottomless pits, question mark blocks, toads saved, and treasures found. Yeah, this is a completionist game. The whole game is designed wanting you to try to 100% complete it. I'll get in more detail about that later since you'll gain a lot of items that will help you towards that goal. Anyway, the first area kind of shows us the basics of the rest of the game's design design philosophy. It's all about looking around and exploring to see what you can find. Sometimes you get items, money, some kind of collectible, so on and so forth. There's also these treasure chests that require some obtuse observation or critical thinking to get to. For example, we see this chest where it's surrounded by thorns and we can't get to it, not unless we want to like hurt ourselves. So we have to just move forward for the time being. But then we see a power star in a tree. We mess around a bit, get the star, and then we can go back over the spikes to get the chest. That's a very basic example, but what did you expect? It's the first area. They're not going to do anything crazy, like putting a chest behind how well Mario can go on a date. I'd fail that shit immediately. There's also plenty of moments throughout the games where you can get like extra items and coins, like this matching minigame with the leaves. You don't have to do many of these. They're completely optional, but it encourages you to go out of your way to engage with the world, because there's such a variety of different things to obtain and different ways to obtain them. Anyway, after that, we end up talking with this old tree who demands that we help it, otherwise it'll keep us trapped in this forest forever. We get sent us down this path, engage in those repetitive tutorials I mentioned earlier, and after that we invigorate the seed and come back to see that the tree's face was stolen. That means we can leave now, right? He's dead, so there's nothing keeping us here. I decided to go ahead and help him anyway because I'm just that nice of a guy. He grows, a music number plays,
the Fitness Gram Pacer test,
and the tree lets us go, and we encounter our first toad that needs rescuing. And this is going to be one of the most constant things you'll be doing in this game, saving toads. They're everywhere. And this area specifically is pretty much dedicated to all the fucked up kind of troubles these toads will find themselves in. Being wedged between objects, being stuck inside things, folded up, blending in with the environment, and so on and so forth. Not only that, but these toads have a use in the battle system as well when you collect them. And since we pretty much made it to the end of the beginning tutorial area, we made it to Peach's Castle, yay! I guess now would probably be a good time to go into the battle system and how it works. This game's battle system is pretty unique in that you can actually position your enemies by twisting and sliding the floor around them. Your goal is to either position them in like an execution lineup or bundle them up so you can hit them with your hammer. You see, when you enter a battle, the enemies will kind of scatter around the board and you have to figure out how to move them to get into the proper position to get the most damage. Since not only will you be able to hit more of them at once, you also get an attack multiplier if you set them up correctly. I really like this battle system. It really involves clever thinking and puzzle solving, which I think is really cool. Some of these setups can be pretty crazy as well, which makes solving them like super satisfying. Makes me feel like a smart boy. But if you're not a smart boy like this guy, then you can use the coins you've collected to have toads help you out. As I mentioned earlier, toads are more than just a completionist objective to work towards. They can also help you in battle. You're surrounded by benches in which toads will sit to watch you fight, and when you spend money, you'll receive help from the toads. They'll arrange the tiles, throw stuff at the enemies, and even heal you. You know what they should do? Rush down the enemy. Like late into the game, there's like over 100 of these guys. Just dogpile them, you lazy assholes. After a battle, you'll receive coins and some confetti. This might seem like a problem since you don't really get stronger with battling, but shops later in the game can have some pretty expensive stuff like defense up, attack up, and so on. It's like if you took EXP and made it into a currency. While you can get coins in the overworld, it won't be enough, so there's at least some incentive to battling. The problem is that there's not enough of this kind of stuff to buy. There's only like 10 things in total you can buy to increase your battle capabilities. All the other stuff you buy is just collectible trophies, which can get really expensive. Like seriously, you have to take a loan from a loan shark to buy some of this stuff, and then you struggle to make more money to pay them back, so you have to change your name and move to a different country where they can't find you. But these trophies don't help in any practical way. They're really only for 100% completion. So if you're like someone who doesn't really care for that kind of thing, then battling does kind of become completely worthless, since buying these trophies is really the only thing you can do with your coins. There are items, but they're really cheap, so it's never really a problem, and since battling would be meaningless to you anyway, the whole point becomes null. The developers designed this game to be 100% completed, and that's why I don't really have a problem with the battles only giving me coins, but I still think there should have been more incentive to buy stuff in shops. Maybe stuff that gave application in the overworld, like increasing your running speed and such. I mean, there's some of that, like with the Toad Bell, the Block Bell, and the Treasure Bell, but there should have been more stuff like that to really cover all the bases. There's also coins you can spend in battle, as I mentioned, but I don't think I need to explain why that doesn't fix the issue. It's really weird. They were really close to making battling like something everyone would want to do, but they just fell a little bit short. Anyway, that was a simple explanation of the battle system. Took me like, what, a minute or two to explain it? Well, this game believes that this system is more complicated than building a rocket while also trying to simultaneously defuse a bomb, because it gives you like 3 different tutorials. The very first one at the castle, then one in the woods, where it's like like more of a refresher. And then you exit that battle, immediately enter another one where the game then teaches you about ring moves. Like, is that really necessary? Couldn't you have just taught me that in the last battle, like all at once? Would it have really been that confusing? Look, even Mario's pissed. Nintendo would probably give a kid a tutorial on how to breathe if they could. It's weird because the tutorial stuff outside of the battle is fine. It teaches you about your abilities and the world in a way that feels natural through the gameplay. I know that battling does kind of need to sit you down and explain how it works since it's more technical. Can't just have someone like figure it out for themselves. Good luck, buddy. But it was handled really clumsily here. We finally made it to Toad Town. I decided to look around for a bit because this game is always filled to the brim with like little secrets and dialogue and stuff like that, so I always try to keep a lookout for them every chance I get. Oh wow, this one's actually a little disturbing. Like, there's no joke here. The last note I read was about Toad running out of snacks to shove up his ass or something. No other note or line of dialogue for that matter is like this, so this one really stuck out to me. I guess since we're here, we should probably talk about the Fungus Village. It basically acts as the main hub throughout the game. As you save more toads and destroy the ribbons in the game, it gets more lively and the music changes, adding more instruments for each area you clear. You got your standard stuff like a shop where you can buy weapons and health. There's a museum here that you can unlock concept art at. That's always really fun. You can also use it to see your many achievements throughout the game. This Toad here is the Love Toad. He'll tell you when you're missing out on one of those Max Plus heart things and where they are, which is really useful. He also gives a mean blowjob. You have the stand here that can increase and decrease your speed for a short amount of time. And when I say short, I mean it. It's entirely impractical. You know, I always wonder why stuff like this is added in games. Like if there was like a bigger plan for it. Like were there going to be multiple shops throughout the world? There are coffee shops, but they only heal you. Nothing about speed change. Was it just added for fun? What is the Toad adding to the drink anyway? Is it a drug? Like crack? Did Nintendo put crack in a Mario game? Of course, you can also go out of your way to speak with all the Toads, who always have something delightful to say. It's just a very nice hub. I really like it. It's especially interesting since most of the town doesn't really actually offer much in terms of helping you. Everything useful is kind of stuffed over here near the museum. They probably did this since if you couldn't care less about all these little freaks, then everything you need is just a few steps away for convenience. But I like inconveniences. My life is filled with them, so I try to stop and talk to the Toads every chance I get. After we make our way through the hole and end up in Peach's castle, we find Luigi stuck inside the wall. He's still hell-bent on finding that key from earlier and drives off. How strong is Luigi exactly? Earlier we find Luigi's cart all tipped over and Olivia says it's too heavy to move, but then Luigi drove off on it like it's nothing. Mario, you need to start working out more. This is why Daisy dumped you after Super Mario Land. We make our way past that and start following the red streamer to this place. This section basically shows you the amount of different things you can do in just a single area, like this lake here where there's a path of invisible blocks to hit, which is used a couple times throughout the game. Yeah, so that's basically what I got done on this. Now, I'm sure many of you could easily tell why I scrapped this video, and if you don't, I'll just sum it up by using this Some Call Me Johnny clip.
It's so slow and boring.
I'm not going to spend too long explaining why, but basically the pacing and structure of this review is just utter dog shit, and it causes the video to drag. You can really feel it at the beginning where, for whatever reason, I decide to outline the entire intro section and what happens in it, even though there's really not much to say about it. And while that's really the only part of this review that you see since I didn't get that far with the editing, this is how most of the rest of the review goes on. Me describing events of the story in excruciating detail, causing the review to go at a snail's pace. What I was trying to do was use the story as a driving force to push the review forward and talk about other mechanics and gameplay as we came across them. The major flaw with this setup though is that Paper Mario and the Origami King story is not that deep or interesting, so using it as a driving force doesn't make the review go at a constant pace. It just makes it feel like we're going nowhere. I was trying to structure it similarly to my Ace Attorney movie review where I talk about the story as we go along and then talk about other aspects as they become relevant. The thing is though is that the Ace Attorney movie has, you know, a constant narrative. You always talk about different things since the story's always moving forward, which doesn't happen in Origami King. I should have structured it more like my Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 review, where I just talk about the game in sections. And then finally, it just felt like the review was being long, more just for the sake of being long, with no justification for it. My Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 review is my longest video yet, but I'm also talking about 2 games in that, so it being an hour long makes sense. My Ace Attorney movie review is also pretty long, all things considered, but I'm also talking about an adaptation from a game, so I make comparisons constantly throughout the video. Those videos have every reason to be long, and this one just didn't. It was just being long for the sake of being long. And those are the major reasons why, despite all the hard work, I decided to just get rid of the whole thing. It hurts, but sometimes you just have to kill your baby, and then display the corpse of that baby in front of an audience and explain why you killed it.